1 year into his presidency, and Joe Biden has already delivered Democrats their worst night of electoral defeats in over a decade. The reasons were obvious and numerous. You had things like inflation, driven by reckless government spending, rising crime, driven by nationwide threats to defund the police, and of course, critical race theory. Critical race theory and the panic around it didn't emerge out of a vacuum. It emerged after Democrats cowered to teachers' unions and kept schools closed, especially in places like Virginia, for nigh on 2 years. As a result, parents showed up at the polls. Some smart Democrats, like James Carville, were trying to save the woke from themselves, but on TV, a lot of them just want to pretend that CRT doesn't exist. This is step 1 of the grief process, also known as denial. The way that socialist superstar Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez decided to counter Carville's claims were to claim that wokeness is just a pejorative used by boomers. You know, the metaphorical okay boomer, but yes, another form of denialism. There's now also the late charge that wokeness doesn't mean anything, when really we know everything that it does mean. Wokeness, CRT, they all have the same application. Saying that things like teaching objective math, or punctuality, or even letter grades themselves are inherently racist because not that teachers are failing students of color, but because of this absurd notion that those students of color can't perform well in STEM fields, that they couldn't get higher letter grades if we didn't have teachers' unions brainwashing our kids with this racially essentialist madness. If inflation is any indicator, the next step of the democratic grief process will be then just saying that wokeness, sure it exists, but it's just transitory. And then they'll be saying, actually, it's a positive good. The problem isn't that the term woke is toxic, it's that wokeness itself is toxic. Voters, especially in blue states like Virginia and New Jersey, proved it. The question is, do Democrats finally face facts, or do they just admit defeat?